So I came across something on TikTok recently that annoyed me. Who would have thought it? I seem to be getting annoyed by quite a lot on TikTok recently, but I just felt like it was potentially worth responding to because I know a lot of autistic people, particularly late diagnosed autistic people, we sometimes face this kind of pushback from people in real life when we reveal that we're autistic. So basically a psychiatrist posted a video of kind of an autism test on TikTok a while back.
Here's a test to see if you're autistic.
I'll touch on that video a little bit later on, but first of all I want to look at two responses to this video that were from two very different people who usually kind of hate each other, but then ended up agreeing with each other kind of ish on this matter, which was interesting. So first of all, we have a guy called LJ Truth, who from looking at his other stuff is usually quite right-leaning.
But you're gonna have to be a traditional woman.
LJ's TikTok is captioned, "You don't have to claim neurodivergence to be special or unique. Just go do something important." Yes, why don't we all go and do something important, like making TikToks like this? Let's see what he has to say.
Here's a test to see if you're autistic. Don't take the test. You're not autistic.
That's a pretty bold statement to make when you're posting something publicly and you don't know who's watching a video. Also, you hashtagged it autism and neurodivergence, so chances are this is gonna pop up on a lot of autistic people's feeds.
I know. You want to think you have something that makes you neurodivergent because that will make you special. But you're not autistic.
The thing is, for autistic people diagnosed later in life, often that feeling of being different, that feeling of being singled out came first. Because even if you're not diagnosed autistic as a young person, you're still autistic and people can like sniff that out. There are studies that suggest people can tell if somebody is autistic. They don't necessarily know that they are autistic, but they know something is different about them in a split second. If you don't have the label of autism, you'll likely have been given other labels throughout your life, like weird and freak. You might have been called the R word. Late diagnosed autistic people have often spent their whole life feeling like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, as they say. So it is a relief to find a label for that feeling, to find a reason why you have always had that feeling.
Seeing the many videos on social media like this one that romanticize and trivialize things like autism or ADHD.
I don't know, I get the impression that some people feel like anything that isn't a meltdown, that isn't an autistic person in extreme distress is romanticizing and trivializing.
And get everyone thinking that they have these disorders made me realize what's really behind this phenomenon.
He realized, yeah, okay, we're all gonna be okay now because he's realized, don't worry, he's found the truth, the LJ truth.
People want to be neurodivergent because the only other alternative to that is being neurotypical, and nobody wants to be typical.
A lot of autistic people, at least, desperately do, because nobody wants to be ostracized, nobody wants to be outcast. It doesn't make you feel special to be excluded from the group and to be called out for negative reasons. I can tell you that for sure.
Everyone kind of has this intrinsic desire to be unique or have something about them that separates them from average people.
I just want this guy to just stop for a second, call up his family and tell them that he thinks he might be autistic, and then just see how special they make him feel. I would say that 80%, at least 80% of the time I share my diagnosis with people in real life, even people who can see my medical record right there in front of them, unless it's family, unless it's somebody who knew me when I was very young, I have a negative experience and there is a huge air of, I don't believe you. It doesn't make me feel special at all. I feel like I spent my entire life, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, my entire life searching for this answer, and then I finally found it. I then did the right thing, as a lot of people would say, and went and got myself an official diagnosis. And now it's just like, I can't do anything with that information. That's how it feels sometimes. Not entirely true, but that's how it feels sometimes, because people have such little understanding of what autism actually is that I feel like I might as well just be speaking a foreign language or saying a word that they've never heard before. In fact, maybe that would be better. I understand myself more, and there's a wonderful online community here, and you could say that that community makes me feel pretty special and happy. Yeah, that's true. In my online bubble, everything's wonderful. As soon as you step out into the real world, that bubble pops in your face. Before I continue, today's discussion of the TikTok nonsense is brought to you by the Paired app. And as it's a relationship care app, that means I get to have Lewis back on the channel, my husband. He hasn't been on for like a year, so here he is. So the Paired app had both of us like cry laughing, didn't it?
Yeah.
I also just think sometimes this app makes you brave enough to say things that you wouldn't necessarily say, even when you've been together for a really long time. On the Paired app, you can answer questions. They have these little question packs. You answer them, but your partner can only see what you've said when they put in their answers. You can play relationship games, which Lewis gets very competitive about.
I like to win.
You can do quizzes, such as Ready to Move In Together, where you can kind of rate where you think you're at with certain aspects of your relationship and then compare. My favorite are the questions. So Lewis and I are going to do the How Well Do You Know Me pack right now. It could get dark. Perfect date night, gosh. What's your perfect date night? It would probably be the board game or watching Netflix. Board game or watching Netflix. And you put for me? Board games and Netflix! We're actually meant to be together.
We know each other. You left me hanging for a high five there, just want to say.
If your partner had to eat the same meal every day for the rest of their life, what would it be? I feel like we both say the same thing. We both say mapo tofu. Pack completed! Mapo tofu! And you also put exclamation marks, but not pound signs.
Not pound signs.
If you want to try out maintaining your connection with your partner by using the Paired app, then you can click my link below and you can get a 7-day free trial, and then you can get 25% off a membership after that as well. I think you may as well just have a go for 7 days and see what you think. Me and Lewis have genuinely had a lot of fun with it. We really have.
But the problem is, to be special and separate yourself from average people, you actually have to do something special or important, and that's hard. Not everyone can invent a new thing or have a desirable skill or have the desire to work hard to put themselves above the rest at a certain practice. But everyone still wants to view themselves as special, and the easiest way to do that is to claim you have some sort of intrinsic attribute that makes you different.
I frankly find it quite insulting that you think the only thing we could do to be seen as special and valuable by society, the only thing that we have to offer is to pretend we have a neurodevelopmental disorder. Autistic people, including later diagnosed autistic people, like obviously, you know, we're trying to fight this, like every autistic person's a genius stereotype, but a lot of us do have skills. We have spent a lot of time honing our skills in particular areas. We don't need to pretend to be autistic, but one thing that does help you to reach your potential in life is to get accommodations for any disabilities that you may have. I personally did very, very well academically, but I had to leave college when I was 17. Had I been diagnosed by the time I was 17, God knows what my life would have been like and whether or not I would have been able to stay. I imagine probably they would have been able to help me a lot more than they did. If you want people to be doing special things out in the world, it's probably a good idea to kind of meet them where they are and offer them a bit of extra help. To be honest, I'm sure me staying in education and then going on to get a degree would have probably looked a lot more impressive and made me seem a lot more important to most people than me like suddenly turning around in my mid-20s and plot twisting everyone with I'm autistic.
Some people on this app do it with their virtue signaling and showcasing their all-encompassing compassion for oppressed people.
Yeah, we should throw away the compassion and just make TikToks like this one. That would be good. We're probably just giving into rage bait here completely. I don't even know how much of this stuff this guy really believes.
Others will do it by claiming to have a disorder that makes them different because they have 1 or 2 symptoms that maybe, potentially, possibly could be related to that disorder. The reality is, it's not easy or common to be viewed as special and important and socially valuable.
It would be lovely to live in a world where being open about your disability made you more socially valuable, but I can tell you, we're not living in that world yet. We're just not.
And the people who are seen as such usually have merit to back it up. If you want to be viewed as someone who stands apart from the crowd, you actually have to do meaningful things that make you stand apart from the crowd. You're not special just because you claim to be special.
Does he realize here that the word special is actually often used as a derogatory word against autistic people, against disabled people in general? I don't think he's saying it to be insulting. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is like, it's kind of ironic to be using that word as if, yeah, people will see you as special if you say you're autistic. Yeah, they might do, but not necessarily in a positive way. There's a lot of stigma attached to this diagnosis. When you're in a little TikTok bubble, it might all seem great, but that's why that TikTok bubble exists, because people don't find that sort of recognition and support all the time in real life, so they turn to these communities of like-minded people. I just want to add here that I don't think it's impossible that someone could fake being autistic, or that they could be misled into thinking that they're autistic when they're not. I'll come back to that a little bit later on in the video. Okay, so you might think, whatever, this was just a bit of stupid rage bait. Why are we even looking at this? Just ignore it and hope it goes away. But I was a bit surprised by this response from this other guy. They usually have a bit of a feud going. They seem to not like each other, so it was like quite a shocking thing, you know, that they agreed with each other. There were people commenting like, this is enemies to lovers. This video is hashtagged neurodivergent, ADHD, autism, privilege, liberal.
No, I know. You want to think you have something that makes you neurodivergent because that will make you special.
Okay, I am going. I am going to kind of
Right. Does that not sound exactly like Hank Green? Okay, clearly I'm not the only one who thinks that good.
agree with LJ here. Don't get your goddamn hopes up. But I am going to approach this from a slightly different perspective here, because this did remind me of something that I've been thinking for quite a while, which is that it seems like quite a lot of people, particularly white liberals, will very often take on all these different queer and neurodivergent labels, not for any genuine reason.
The main issue I have here is who gets to decide when it is a genuine reason? Who gets to make that decision? Why do you think that you're particularly suited to tell genuine from non-genuine reasons? And you must think that you can. You must feel like you've sniffed out some non-genuine queer and non-genuine neurodivergent people out there. Otherwise, you wouldn't think this was an issue worth talking about here. What are you basing this on? This guy Yuval, he makes it clear in other TikToks that he's not against self-diagnosis, so it's not self-diagnosis versus officially diagnosed that he's talking about.
I'm going to give everybody a foolproof method to see whether or not you actually have ADHD. Go look up a list of symptoms of ADHD. You can find a million of them very easily. And then look at these symptoms and ask yourself, do you experience a number of these symptoms at a frequency and at a severity where it is having a regular impact on your life? If the answer to that question is yes, then you might have ADHD.
So I'm not sure what he's talking about. I need some examples. Where are these non-genuines?
But because, in my personal opinion,
Again, this in my personal opinion thing is kind of just as bad as LJ's having a realization based on nothing, just because it's the LJ truth.
they cannot stand the idea that they might be privileged. And it really seems to stem from the fact that many of these white people have what seems like quite a strong desire to relate to people of color. And so they feel as if they have to be oppressed by something because, God forbid they are the same type of person that everybody on the left is talking against.
I can't speak for anyone else here at all, so you'll have to let me know what you think of this. But personally, my journey to discovering that I'm autistic was way more selfish than that. I wasn't thinking at all about any of the marginalized groups that I care about. I was just thinking about myself and my own life and my own history. I would also never dare to think that me discovering that I'm autistic would give me any more insight into the experience of being Black or of being a person of color. I don't know if that is something that people do. Maybe I'm just, not exposed to that. But again, there aren't any examples given in this video, so I can't really respond to that. Thing is, aren't people mainly speaking out against cis white men? And when you search, say you search actually autistic, which is a hashtag that a lot of autistic people use, when you see that hashtag, you're not seeing that many cis white men pop up. And there are many cis white men who also slipped through the cracks and didn't get a diagnosis, particularly those who masked a lot. It's definitely not always super easy for men, but there's a hell of a lot of women too, because it used to be believed that autism was a lot more common in men than women, and we're starting to see these ratios shifting a little bit. So a lot of the late diagnosed people are women, or just not cis white men. So surely if we wanted to be marginalized, rather than going to the trouble of faking neurodivergence, wouldn't it have been a lot easier for us just to be feminist and speak out about sexism? I also wonder how all of the people who are not white watching this video feel, because obviously it's not just white people seeking an autism diagnosis. This is another quite harmful stereotype of autism that blocks people from getting a diagnosis, that it's a white person thing.
It is definitely frustrating because these people do end up delegitimizing those people that actually fall under these labels.
No, what I think is frustrating right now is how the general public think that they get to decide who legitimately falls under that label and who does not. What I do see is a lot of autistic people being told that they're faking being autistic for attention. Chloe Hayden recently decided to take herself off social media. Someone else is running her social media now because she was accused of mainly faking being autistic. She was diagnosed when she was 12. She's 26 now. She's been posting on YouTube about autism for 7 years before it was trendy. But people didn't bother to look at all that. People didn't bother to research her background or go and read her book that she's published or anything like that. They just looked at her, and to be honest, I think when female, wears makeup, can't possibly be autistic, she's faking it. People so often decide that people of a certain age, gender or race just don't make the cut and they're not autistic enough. Maybe could be to do with cognitive dissonance, which is the idea in psychology that it kind of hurts people's heads to hold two contradictory ideas in their minds. So in order to avoid that mental stress, they'll just try and make everything match up with what they previously believed. So if the only autistic person you've ever known is your 5-year-old nephew who's non-speaking faking. And then suddenly there's this 30-year-old woman in front of you and she's saying she's autistic and she's just been diagnosed. That might be a little bit confusing. It might be easier for you to just go, no, that's not it. That's not autism. That's not what autism looks like. Of course it isn't. That's ridiculous. This person is faking it. And that's offensive. In order for somebody to change their minds about autism, they'd have to be comfortable with holding these two supposedly contradictory ideas in their mind for some time. And then they might be able to acknowledge that this 30-year-old woman getting the help that she has needed her whole life does not really affect my 5-year-old nephew negatively in any way. Because it's a spectrum, they both probably need very different things and very different resources, so they're not in competition, so let's stop treating it like it's a competition. Now, is it impossible that somebody has a rare disorder that they're faking being autistic because they like the attention it brings, whatever reason it is that somebody has for doing this? No. Does that make me feel good, the idea of somebody doing that? No, it doesn't. It makes me feel very uncomfortable and kind of annoyed. You could even say it makes me feel like someone's trivializing my diagnosis. Munchausen syndrome is so rare though. It's going to be so few people, and these people are sick. So I feel sympathy for them, you know, because who else in their right mind is going to pretend that they're autistic? It's still such a big, loaded, scary word in our society. And maybe some people may kind of tentatively join the autistic community and then decide later on that actually the label doesn't fit and something else is more suited to them. This could be more likely to happen with younger people, you know, if someone's still figuring out who they are. But I don't know, what is the harm here? You come away with a bit more understanding of what autism is. I feel like that's something that most people really, really need. And you might walk away with some autistic friends. Brilliant, great, okay. As long as you're not harming autistic people, then like, fine, come in. It's a compassionate, warm space. You might have a great time. And you might discover that yes, you really are autistic. Somebody being misinformed from a TikTok and then kind of exploring the idea that they could be autistic for a little bit of time. Okay, all right. I don't really see much harm in that. But what I do see harm in is calling out somebody, saying that they're faking being autistic to win the oppression Olympics or something like that, and then it turns out that they actually are autistic. Because, you know, you can't see their brains, so you don't know. Now, if somebody uses being autistic or from any other marginalized group as an excuse to be racist or behave badly towards any marginalized group in any way, or as an excuse to justify abusive behavior, that's obviously not acceptable. I will completely 100% agree with that.
Despite the fact that I'm sure plenty of people listening will understand what I'm talking about, virtually all the people that this applies to will think I'm talking about somebody else. They'll all respond saying, yeah, there are people like that. They're so fucking weird.
I mean, I think, particularly in my community, most of us would watch that and we would assume you were talking about us. That imposter syndrome is really hard to get rid of. Because of course, even we can't see our minds. It's going on inside of us, you know? We have nothing to compare our internal world to, so it's really difficult. That's why Paige Liel, an autistic TikToker, her new book is going to be called But Everyone Feels This Way. It's really confusing to figure out something so intangible, so I do sympathize that other people feel like they can't see it and that you don't look it, because yeah, that is true. It's clear from the comments that a lot of people did indeed think you were talking about them.
And I don't think these people are pretending. I do believe this all comes from a good place, but I think it also stems from a misunderstanding that somehow the only way you'll have something of value to contribute is if you come from some sort of marginalized group.
I think it might be worth pointing out here that claiming a label for yourself is not necessarily the same thing as claiming oppression. A label is just a way to describe your identity to yourself and to others. When I say I'm autistic, I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, woe is me. I've got the hardest life ever. No one has ever had a life harder than me. I'm so disadvantaged in society. Everyone needs to pity me now and forgive me of any mistakes I ever make because I am so small and autistic. I'm instead describing how my mind works, and hopefully that might help to relay some information about me to others who understand what autism is. As we know, not a lot of people do necessarily understand exactly what autism is, but you know, that's why we have this channel. That's why we're making autism our whole personality, as some might say.
And I think a lot of people just need to realize you don't need to feel bad just for being privileged. No one's trying to make you feel guilty for something that you had absolutely no control over. They just want you to acknowledge it without undercutting it right afterwards by going, oh, well, actually, you know, I'm also a part of this thing, so technically...
I do just want to say again here that not all autistic people are white. I recently started following this account on TikTok. I think she has some really great things to say.
Well, anyways, I actually was diagnosed as a child with autism. My mother told me when I was like 13 or 14. Do you know how autistic you have to be? As like a black woman, for doctors to actually diagnose you with autism as a child, like I was giving spectrum.
But I feel like she, even though she was diagnosed as a child, she is somebody who people would probably look at and say she doesn't look autistic.
I am a second-year med student, paying my own way through med school, also model, also do content creation. I am highly capable. I have a garden. I like do composting. Okay, now I'm just bragging.
In this book, Autism Missed and Misdiagnosed by a British clinical psychologist. I'll leave a link to it down below. There is a whole section from a Black autistic advocate called Vanessa who goes into detail about why Black people are less likely to be diagnosed. For example, racial prejudice overshadowing any diagnosis, and young people might instead be labelled as loud, feisty, or rude. I think it's clear that we do have a lot more representation of white autistic people on social media, and hopefully that will keep continuing to shift as more people are diagnosed.
It touches on this also, or one of the things that's contributing to this are, all those TikToks saying things like 10 signs you have ADHD, 10 signs you have autism, and then it's like 10 different things that are all incredibly common parts of the human experience.
This particular TikTok that they're responding to here, as far as I can tell, because the original video I think has been taken down now, but it was from a psychiatrist. It wasn't like a video of 10 signs, it was a facial expressions test, I think, which, yeah, of course, can't tell you if you're autistic or not on its own, obviously. And I do think at the time this guy was kind of trying to sell consultations. So, ethically, I don't really know how you feel about that. It would just be really nice if there was just brilliant universal healthcare for all, really, wouldn't it? You get an autism assessment, you get an autism assessment. I mean, to be honest, this test is probably more likely to tell people who actually are autistic that they're not autistic from what I've seen of it. Anyway, it seems like a lot of medical professionals weren't super happy with this video, and that might be why it was taken down.
To see if you're autistic. I'm Dr. George Sachs, and scientists have found
a great many things wrong with this simplistic approach to diagnosing autism. Yes, I know you conclude that that's really not enough of a test, but why are you giving this to people?
One of the comments on this video was, the only one who can figure out that you're autistic is the middle school bully or another autistic person. They just feel it in their bones. And I just think this is why the autistic community is lovely. We share so many life experiences with each other. So we know what's funny. Do I think like all the information about autism on TikTok is accurate? No, I don't. There was this one study that looked at 133 videos on TikTok. According to the assessment that they did, only 27% were accurate, 41% were inaccurate, and 32 were classed as overgeneralized. But according to them, if the content was posted by medical professionals, it was more likely to be accurate. Yeah, I would agree. I did a whole video reacting to like weird TikTok tests. There's a lot of strange stuff out there on the internet. And even content from autistic people can be overgeneralized. Sure, people can sometimes speak about their own experiences as if it's going to be everybody's experience. Yeah, just take everything with a pinch of salt, I suppose. I don't think it necessarily means that we should cancel the whole thing, though. People sharing their own experiences, as long as they're clear that this is my own experience and it won't necessarily be yours, can be super, super helpful, because often, even if you don't relate to their exact scenario, it can start to bring back memories. And if you are going to go through the diagnosis process, it can help you to get your notes and remember things, because it's really hard to go and tell somebody your whole childhood, basically,
Talk to a medical professional if you can. I understand plenty of people self-diagnose. That self-diagnosis should not come from a TikTok.
I appreciate that Yuval isn't against self-diagnosis. I also agree, your self-diagnosis shouldn't come from one TikTok. Definitely not this facial expression test. I have a video for kind of like, what should you do if you think you might be autistic? So I'll leave that one linked on screen.
Personally, I'm of the belief that you are more of an ally if you don't feel the need to change aspects of yourself because you think that is the only way your help will be valued.
Anyway, Yuval ended up having to make this kind of response TikTok because some people, weren't happy about it.
Quick clarification on this video. This video is not about autism specifically. It also is not about whether or not I think self-diagnosis is accurate. It's why the only comment I make about a self-diagnosis in the video is that your self-diagnosis should not primarily come from a random TikTok that stumbled on your For You page. My overarching point is not that you should question people who tell you that they have autism, or that you should question yourself because of other people who are misappropriating these labels. The overarching point of this video centers on how white people will try to distance themselves from their privilege. One of the ways that this manifests, specifically for white people on the left, is what I was describing in this video, where people will attribute these overarching and generic queer and neurodivergent labels to themselves, which is why the concluding point of this video is not that you should have people prove their identities to you. The concluding point of this video is that you are still able to be a meaningful ally even if you are coming from a place of privilege.
I appreciate that he said this, but I feel like the outcome of this was, a bit negative for neurodivergent people. And you may have just encouraged, the general person to feel like they are in some way qualified to decide who is autistic and who isn't. You can't say, oh, I didn't mean autism when you're responding to 2 videos about autism. You hashtagged autism. And the word neurodivergence is very often used about autism. Sometimes when you search the word neurodivergence, the definition will actually come up as being just it means being autistic.
I think in response to when people are diminishing people's experiences, feelings, or emotions around their speculation of being potentially neurodivergent, I think a more positive or constructive method, especially for community building tactics, is to provide resources and to provide positive affirmation and to give advice and suggestions on how people can begin or launch into their journey for their internal self-discovery. It's okay to not be neurodivergent, and it's okay to be neurotypical. The reason why I say that is because I hope that you don't have to be neurodivergent. It is an experience that comes with an unending feeling of being misunderstood, perpetual loneliness and alienation, but also feeling like you just don't belong in a world that wasn't built for you in the first place. And I think it's really important to recognize that people who disproportionately are afflicted with mental health issues are often Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. And I think in order to move forward in society, we have to create a community where we have a larger form of language and a provision of resources to make sure everybody can seek proper mental health care.
This was a much more productive response to LJ's video in my mind. Worst case, somebody who's not autistic has more of an understanding of autistic people. Like, the world isn't going to end. I have to say, it's kind of heartbreaking to have searched your whole life. You find this label that describes you perfectly, that leads to this new level of self-acceptance that helps the people around you understand why you do things the way you do, helps you to learn things about yourself that you never could have learned on your own. And then just as you feel ready to share it with your friends and your family, there's this narrative building of people faking autism and autism being overdiagnosed. I don't want to feel like I have to justify being autistic to every person that I meet. Just believe someone. I'd really recommend this book if you are interested in the underdiagnosis of autistic people. I'll leave a link to it in the description. I have a video about 9 signs that you might not be autistic. That video is not intended to gatekeep autism. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about if you click on it. I'll leave it linked down below and on screen. I'm putting a hell of a lot of time and effort into creating these videos at the moment, and I'm absolutely loving it. If you would like to support the channel, you can do so over on Patreon. If you join even the lowest tier, which is just $4, you get 2 exclusive videos every month. There's a bunch up there already, and you also can join the Discord server full of neurodivergent people and people who are exploring the idea that they could be neurodivergent as well. And if you want to try the Paired app, then click the link in the description. As I say, you'll get a 7-day free trial and 25% off a membership. Bye!